My name is Courtney Cherry, and I work in advertising. I'm a global chief of staff of a global media agency. My biggest challenges were using food as a coping mechanism with a lot of, I would say, excessive snacking and also managing my stress. I think that stress, I have a very sort of stressful job, and food has been sort of a crutch for me in terms of how I've let that stress manifest. But then it's also impacted sort of how I sleep and how I sort of live my life. As we've talked about, I've sort of historically started my day on like a cortisol wave and like kind of let things go from there. So those were some of my big challenges. I travel extensively for my job, both domestically and globally. So I am dealing with lots of time zones and nights spent sleeping on planes and hotel food, which created a whole host of challenges for me from a wellness perspective. So, having a really good strategy for how I was going to be managing all of that was a total game changer.
Were we able to address those challenges and successfully manage getting through those challenges during the 12 weeks? And tell me a little bit about it.
Yeah, so let's start with the travel because I think that was a major unlock in our work together. One of there was I would say there's three key learnings with the travel for me, and one was the importance of sleep when I travel. A lot of times, especially just the jet lag and time zone management, not to mention just sort of the busy schedules when I travel. Sleep was definitely not prioritized ever in my work travel. So solving for that and really prioritizing that was a huge, huge thing. I would say, secondly, would be just giving myself a little grace when I travel for work. I tend to, you know, take the last flight I possibly can, get there, shower, like start my work day. And there was never really any space for me to even like recover from the long haul travel or set myself up for success for the week, whether that was going to the grocery store and just getting snacks from my room or just going for a walk and getting some sunlight to reset my circadian rhythms. I never really gave myself any grace on that. So building that time, especially on the long haul travel, has been really, really helpful. And then lastly, I will say the key thing with travel for me has been asking for help. Was communicating my needs to my assistant or my colleagues in other offices and saying, hey, I've got some specific nutrition things that I'm working on. Can you help me? And I never would have historically asked for that in my past life. I would have just gone with it and tried not to be, difficult about anything. But I was, really surprised that everybody, of course, was like, "Yes, of course, I will get you nuts. I will make sure you have good protein at lunch," and just made sure I was taken care of. So being sure that I was able to articulate my needs and ask for help. People were there for me, which was great. The food prep and the nutrition and just sort of like the game plan for the week, my husband and I love it. Like, we don't really anticipate a lot changing in terms of just having the food prepped and ready to go. I think that has been a game changer for us. I will say, the definitely the small meals, eating every 2 hours as a sort of chronic snacker. Having knowing that like my next like little snack or meal was always sort of like on the horizon was very comforting to me. So and it also helped me just sort of structure my day in a way that made sense. And I would say that would be the other thing that I will definitely be taking from this, which is that structure to the day and also protecting the sacredness of my mornings, and making sure that my morning routine, which is, hydration, meditation, time with my dogs, hopefully some time outside, some time moving my body before the craziness of the workday starts, like really trying to protect that and keep that sacred time intact will definitely be part of my routine. And then lastly, we haven't talked about alcohol.
Ooh,
Um, but I did want to share that, I mean, I've really enjoyed the break from alcohol. My husband has been sober for 12 years, so we don't have a very alcohol-centric home at all. But I will say I do work in advertising, which is a very alcohol-centric environment to work in. And I think I'm like done with like ever like drinking in a work capacity. Like I don't think like that. I mean, I still like intend on enjoying a beautiful glass of wine over dinner or in those like very sort of intentional moments, but like the the work situation, like I'm no longer going to drink in a work capacity because it's just it disrupts sleep, it just messes with so much and it's like just not really worth it. Um so that was definitely something that I'll be continuing.
that's a huge affirmation right there. I mean, people in sales and marketing all have that
It's
challenge
crazy.
of alcohol being pushed on them. And just for you to see that it's not even necessary, you navigated all of it without having to have a
Yeah.
single drink. And you
Yeah.
and that's because the stress has been reduced as well. So you don't need that coping
Yeah.
mechanism of alcohol.
Yeah, and you don't need it. Like you don't those first couple work dinners or I won't lie, I sort of white knuckled my way through it. But then it got easier. It just did. And then I mean and then there's such a great selection of just like non-alcoholic beverages right now that are like delicious and fun and I think and healthy and don't have a lot of sugar or carbs or anything. So the world, the non-alcoholic world, I feel like is richer than it's ever been. And so I would say to people like don't be afraid to lean into it.